Yo, what is up everyone? Back here with another video. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the match that I had against Lazaropoulos, I think I said that correctly, in top 16 of the Pokemon World Cup of VGC. So first, I want to talk a little bit about the season in general, and then talk, obviously, that the match. We'll kind of go through it together, and we'll talk a little bit about the team I brought as well. So first off, this is a pretty important week. We're in top 16 now, so it is a single elimination bracket at this point. So if we lose the week, we are out of the tournament. So this is a pretty important week. So generally speaking, obviously, every match really helps with, being able to give your team a little bit more of an advantage here. We fielded some great players here, so feeling good about the week. But let's talk a little bit about the team I actually brought before we get into the match. So I ended up bringing a team with Grimmsnarl and Loaded Dice Multi-Scale Dragonite, which you don't frequently see in this format of Regulation F. So in Regulation H, it's nothing too uncommon to see, but in Regulation F, it's something that you see a little bit more rarely. But I was testing out a team the day before, wanted to make sure that I had something strong that fit what I like to play, along with just being like a good neutral pick in general. So I went back to the Grimmsnarl screen stuff that I'd used back in Regulation G, updated for the kind of Regulation F flavor of format. Basically, there's no Miraidon, of course, so I ended up running a kind of like modified version of that in this round, pretty much. And I wanted to use Multi-Scale Dragonite because I felt like it was the best option to equalize against stuff like Ogerpon Wellspring and some other water type compositions, along with just having a really strong Iron Hand set here. Behind that, Grimmsnarl being able to really stall stuff with screens, use that Multi-Scale D-Knight in the back to sweep. So the team choice felt pretty strong this week. I felt like I brought a team that was, relatively strong given what the opponents have shown a history of using. And I wanted to bring something that just really played to my strength. So that's kind of the main idea with what I actually used. And we'll make sure to break down the match. I'll kind of talk through turn by turn what I was thinking, why I did what I did. So let's get into actual team preview. So my opponent actually brought a team that is pretty standard to this format, or at least like one of the more standard teams, which is Dark Urshifu, Clear Amulet, Iron Hands, although it had Hard Press, which was a bit weird. Furgiraf with the Armor Tail, of course, to protect the attackers. Ogerpon Hearthflame with Follow Me. Tornadus with the Rocky Helmet set. And then we had a Life Orb Ursaluna. So generally speaking, in team preview, I was feeling pretty okay about this matchup. Screens is usually really good at being able to sustain damage from these really offensive teams. And having Dark Urshifu means that you won't be able to Surging Strikes past these screens against my Grimmsnarl and some of the other options. So I found for game one, I wanted to play it kind of simple. Taking the Iron Hands and the Grimmsnarl felt pretty reasonable. I'm going to actually double the speed here as well. But I'll pause if I need to. Basically, I felt like Iron Hands and Grimmsnarl was able to stabilize things enough, and I felt like with Urshifu and Dragonite, it would be a good enough cleanup in the back where I could leverage it to win. The bulky Choice Band Urshifu and the bulky Multi-Scale Dragonite, well, I guess more so bulky in terms of it being multi-scale, would basically allow it to be a really functional endgame option here, especially with no fairy types on the opposing team. So you're going to see Ursaluna and Tornadus was in the lead, and here I actually consider a couple of different locks, but end up going for Drain Punch. The main reason why I ended up going for a I'm actually gonna put this on 1.5 too, because I feel like I lock in really quickly and I kind of forgot that. But basically, like in this match, the key is like not letting the Ursaluna get too much damage for free. So by going for a Drain Punch here, I ensure that even if Furdraft switches in, a Terra Normal Blood Moon comes out, I'm going to be able to get that consistent damage on the Ursaluna regardless. And going for Light Screen also allows me to just weaken the damage that my Iron Hand is taking. I don't necessarily want to commit to Terrestrialization yet because the Ursaluna could, again, just straight go for that Blood Moon, and then Terra Watering would be a waste here. So we're going to see the Terra Normal comes out here from the Blood Moon, just opting to go for a lot of damage here. We get the Light Screen up here with the Grimmsnarl, which is pretty nice. Bleakwind will come out. It's going to connect on both our Iron Hands and Grimmsnarl. Now, this does put our Grimmsnarl in range of Blood Moon, which of course isn't the best because we would like to get both screens up, but for this trade, it's not the worst. You did force Terra out of the Blood Moon, and you're going to get a bunch of HP on one of their most valuable offensive pieces. And this is also going to give Dragonite an opportunity to come in on a board that's at least a little bit more favorable than you might anticipate. So what we're going to do here is we bring in Dragonite. The reason why I brought in Dragonite is I wanted to ensure that we could keep equal speed control, because having a situation where they are faster with slower Pokemon, right, would be great. And also, too, it kind of just keeps the speed control between the Ursaluna and the other Pokemon neutral. Now, I could have gone for a Scale Shot here into Ursaluna, but if I miss, it's going to allow Ursaluna to get 2 attacks off. So it's better just go for Tailwind here to play it a little bit safer. So I go for that Tailwind. I go for that Wild Charge into Tornadus. If Tornadus chooses to go for Taunt into my Dragonite, it's fine anyways, because it's going to let me it's still gonna let me like get the Wild Charge KO on the Tornadus. So Hyper Voice comes out here, doesn't do too much damage because we have that Light Screen up, Assault Vest and Multi-Scale respectively. Tailwind goes up on my side, Wild Charge going to go into the Tornadus and get that knockout. So overall in this position, I'm feeling pretty good, right? Even though I had to take some chip on both my Dragonite and my Iron Hands, because there's no Terra available, if Dark Urshifu comes in, it's not necessarily going to be pressuring the knockout on my Dragonite with Terra Dark Wicked Blow, right? So I should be able to take that hit. As well, too, I have Skill Shot Pressure into the Ursaluna, and that opens up Drain Punch into the opposing Urshifu. So generally speaking, I was feeling pretty good from this position, especially with how I had managed the board. So you're going to see the opponent takes a little bit of time to think here. They're probably debating whether or not they were going to bring in Ogerpon or Dark Urshifu, which makes a lot of sense. They choose to bring in Dark Urshifu. Now, here, I'm going for Skill Shot into the opposing Ursaluna and Drain Punch into Urshifu. Just keeps the play pretty neutral here. It's going to allow me to get the knockout on the Ursaluna, not let it get some more damage on my Iron Hands, and I'm going to be able to Drain Punch that Urshifu for a lot of damage. Now, of course, one thing I guess I didn't give enough respect to is that Urshifu is still really strong. I was obviously able to survive with Dragonite anyways, but that definitely got a little bit scary. It got a little bit closer than I would have expected. And you'll notice that in the team that I showed you, I didn't have Terra Fairy on the Dragonite. If I had Terra Fairy, I probably would have used it there, or I would have considered using it at least. But Drain Punch going into the Urshifu here, going to get a bunch of Iron Hands health back. So Iron Hands sitting in a pretty good position here. And now we're going to see the back Pokemon revealed. It's going to be that Ogerpon, right? So we have to be a little bit careful here, but as long as we get rid of that Urshifu, it should allow us to Terra Ghost our own Urshifu pretty safely here in front of the Ogerpon. So you'll see I split damage here. I just go for Skill Shot into the opposing Ogerpon, and then I go for a Drain Punch into Urshifu. If I get the Skill Shot off into the Ogerpon, it's going to put it in range of Aqua Jet for my Urshifu anyways, so that my Urshifu won't even need to have the Terra here to win. And then as well too, if they just get the knockout onto my Dragonite with Sucker Punch and Ivy Cudgel goes into the hands, or Wood Hammer goes into the hands, I'll be able to get a Drain Punch off into that Urshifu and put myself in a good position that way. So you're going to see Sucker Punch goes into my Dragonite anyways here, and Ivy Cudgel is going to come out. Hopefully no crit, of course, no crit. Luckily, I think I might have been able to live anyways. Drain Punch goes into Urshifu and cleans it off, and now my Urshifu in the back and my Iron Hands are in a pretty good position here, because now I'm able to Terra Ghost, go for that Surging Strikes. Ivy Cudgel has to crit, or Wood Hammer has to crit if that's the move of choice, and Drain Punch here is going to be pretty secure. And Banshifu in the back is really strong in this team as a cleanup option, especially with those screens up. So I felt pretty good about how I positioned this game. I definitely tried to avoid as much, I guess not avoid as much risk as possible, because I definitely made some aggressive plays, but I definitely think that like keeping the pressure on, getting that light screen up was valuable enough where it put me in a heavy enough lead, right? If I had gotten that reflective, it would have been even better, but I felt like Dragonite was able to really convert well here, and it just felt pretty useful. But you're gonna see Terra Ghost comes out here. Now my Urshifu is obviously just going to be able to live anything from this Ogerpon, save a crit. Wood Hammer comes out, and now we're gonna see that Surging Strikes go straight into that Ogerpon and just knock it cleanly out. So, and you'll see it actually knocked out after the Wood Hammer chip, so 3 would probably KO it from full anyways, had it been like an Ivy Cudgel crit into hand, so it would have been fine either way. So after that game 1, I'm feeling pretty good about this position, right? Obviously, I was able to get a pretty clean game 1 win. Obviously, the Wicked Blow from Urshifu was close, but I felt overall pretty good about how I had played this game. So going into the next game, I do want to keep this Iron Hands and Grimmsnarl combination somewhere on the team, but maybe I can try to adjust a little bit, because the opponent obviously isn't just going to lead Tornadus and Ursaluna again into an obvious Iron Hands lead. So I choose to actually go with Landorus in the lead here. And the main reasoning for this is that there is the potential of something like an Iron Hands and a Furdraft lead, or a Ogerpon and a Ursaluna lead. And the main reason why both of those leads would work out really nicely here is because it allows you to put on immediate pressure against the Iron Hands and the Grimmsnarl, right? You're going to be able to get more pressure off turn 1. Maybe Earth Power Wood Hammer into the Iron Hands, or you could just go for an Ivy Cudgel Blood Moon into the Grimmsnarl. So I opt to go for a Landorus adjustment here, and then I take Iron Hands and Dragonite in the back. Dragonite's obviously very crucial to have here, so I wanted to make sure that I had it somewhere on each spring, and my Iron Hands obviously being able to really wall out that Ursaluna behind light screen, or at least be in a good position of playing well. So here we're going to see Ogerpon and Ursaluna in the lead. I'm going to be leading the Grimmsnarl Lander. So this turn looks like okay for me. But realistically, there is some risk here. So I actually just go straight for a light screen and a Sands here, but it's actually very easy to punish this from my opponent's side, but they might be a little bit scared too. So what could have punished this directly would have been a Terrifier Ivy Cudgel from the opposing Ogerpon. The main reason why I didn't go for Thunder Wave and Sands here though is because light screen and Sands here is pretty safe, again, unless they Terrifier their Ogerpon, which is a pretty crazy play to make in front of a Landorus that can just Sands here you and Thunder Wave Grimmsnarl, right? So overall, it felt like a pretty reasonable play for me to light screen here. I could also go for a T-Wave. I usually do like going for T-Wave turn 1, but I figured my opponent would probably respect something along those lines. So you're going to see Tornadus switch in here to try and catch that Sands here going into the Ursaluna or maybe even an Earth Power. Ivy Cudgel comes out here into Landorus, and we're going to see that Sands here miss on the Tornadus, of course, because of the immunity, but it's going to be connecting on that Ogre Pond. So overall, the trade turn 1, not so bad here, and you'll see I actually immediately lock into Thunder Wave and Sludge Bomb, and there's a reasoning for this. So with the light screen, I think that I have a chance to live the Bleak Wind Storm from the opposing Tornadus, but the other reason why I want to go for this Thunder Wave is that even if Tornadus goes for a Tailwind and Ogre Pond tries to attack here, if I get a Paralysis and I get a Sludge Bomb into that Ogre Pond, not only am I wasting a turn of their Tailwind, I'm also going to be able to have a good material advantage here. So you'll see I just go straight for the Thunder Wave. They actually go for a plain Bleak Wind here. They don't go for a Tailwind here, and I'm able to get that Sludge Bomb into the Ogre Pond, which is a pretty big deal here. I definitely think probably Tailwind for my opponent was a little bit better there, but of course I wanted the cover. Now you're going to see Bleak Wind come out here, and my Landorus is able to hold on. I think a really important interaction here that we saw as well is that my Landorus was also able to outspeed the opposing Tornadus, meaning that with that Rocky Helmet, it is a very slow Tornadus. So we're going to see Ursaluna come out here. Now, this play is going to look crazy because I go for Thunder Wave into the Ursaluna and I go for Earth Power into Ursaluna. The main reason I did this was the cover for if they went for Terra Normal Blood Moon into Grimmsnarl and another Bleak Wind Storm. And if they went for Tailwind and Terra Normal Hyper Voice, but they don't go for it. They just go for a regular Hyper Voice here. But this is pretty okay because, again, even though I lost the Landers on this turn, they've used up a turn of Tailwind already. And now I have my Iron Hands in a very good position here in front of that Ursaluna, right? So what I can just do here is get up that Reflect to set up for a good endgame versus the Pokemon in the back, get a safe Drain Punch into this Ursaluna. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't I choose to fake out any of these times? I basically I actually go for a Spirit Break here. I remember I go for a Spirit Break, and it's mostly because I think that the other play they could go for is Bleak Wind Earth Power into my hands, and then this just lets me get the knockout on Ursa. It's just Dark Ursha in the back, and I win the game. So I go for that first. The opponent here just goes for a Protect, makes a strong play here, and just goes for Bleak Wind to get some chip on both of my Pokemon. Except that they missed the Grimmsnarl here, so it's a little bit less good, which ends up helping me later in the game anyways. Drain Punch comes out here, and Hands took minimal chip from the turn. Now I'm just going to go for a Reflect here in case my Grimmsnarl gets knocked out, so that I'm in a good position versus the Urshifu. I think... Do I Thunder Wave? Oh yeah, I do. Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, sorry. I slightly misspoke. I Thunder Wave first because I'm like, okay, even if you Blood Moon to knock out my Grimmsnarl, you Hyper Voice and Bleak Wind, I win the game anyways because I get a full Drain Punch and I have Dragonite in a very convenient board. But even like in Thunder Wave 2 also just gives a chance to get paralyzed on the Bleak Wind Storm, which means I'm going to take even less chip, right? So it's just a very safe play to go for here. You're going to see I go for Terra Water in hands. This is mainly just to call out the Earth Power from Ursaluna, so if that comes out, I'm going to be able to take that pretty well. And we're going to see Thunder Wave goes into this Tornadus here. I do end up catching the Ursaluna on the Earth Power play on the hands, so my hands is able to take it pretty decently. We're going to see that Bleak Wind Storm comes out as well, gets a good chunk of chip into that hands, putting it just below half, but now I'm going to be able to get this very significant Drain Punch onto the Ursaluna, get it very low on health. Now that I've basically put myself in this situation, I know that I can probably live a Terra Normal Blood Moon on my Iron Hand, so if I get rid of this Tornadus, I should be able to win the game here. Now, I do make a slight misplay, in my opinion. I go for a Reflect. Now, the reason why I'd gone for Reflect is because I was scared of, okay, if I lose my Grimmsnarl, I don't get Reflect up, Dragonite could lose a 1v1 versus Dark Ursha if I Scale Shot and then get Sucker Punch, right? But I think it was probably better to just go for a Spirit Break here to confirm I got the knockout on the Ursaluna. It looked like it was in range of Life Orb, but ended up not being in this instance. You're going to see Blood Moon goes into the Iron Hands here. This is exactly what I needed. I knew I was out of range once I saw this. Tornadus doesn't move because it's paralyzed. Doesn't make too much of a difference besides helping me in the end game here. And we're going to see that Wild Charge come out here. So now the opponent is in a really awkward position. Their Tailwind is about to expire. I have a Dragonite now, and I have a Grimmsnarl that can go for a Spirit Break here. So they're forced to go for close combat to knock out my Grimmsnarl, which leaves them susceptible to Dragonite. So my safest middle ground play here is just to go for a Spirit Break into the opposing Urshifu and go for a Scale Shot into the Ursaluna. Now, the only scary part about that is if the opponent makes a read, they protect their Ursaluna, and then they go for a Wicked Blow. It could put me in a potential losing position here, but I have to make the call, and I end up going for the safest middle ground play I can find, and that's going to be Scale Shot into Ursaluna, connects, and the opponent was relying on the Scale Shot miss. Then we're going to see here Spirit Break comes out. So the only way I can now lose this game is with Urshifu going for that close combat in the Grimmsnarl and Dragonite missing 2 skill shots. So generally, I'm feeling pretty good about this, right? 90% chances to be able to win. I reflect up, so I can't go down the Sucker Punch unless I get critical hit. So I'm just going to be going for that Spirit Break and Scale Shot. And luckily, on this next hit, I do end up connecting that Scale Shot and getting the knockout. And that's going to be top 16 wrapped up, where I was able to beat this player from Greece. Excellently played by my opponent. I just think that, like, again, it was a tricky matchup, right? I think I put myself in this position where I was able to get a lot of momentum swings in my favor, and I was able to win here. And also, too, if you guys are curious about the result between Greece and the USA, we did end up winning the week 4-1 so far. We still have 2 matches to go, but we did end up winning. So feeling pretty good about that for our team. But I think generally what was really strong about my prep this week is I brought a team that really fit within what I feel comfortable using, but also just really let me slow down the pace of the game, control it with that AV Iron Hands, and, you know, just be able to get a clean win here. So I'm feeling really good about that. Looking forward to top 8 of World Cup. We're going to be playing versus a stacked opponent regardless, so it's going to be a really cool match to see. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of video. Let me know if you guys would like to see videos like this in the future, and I'll see you guys soon. Catch you later. Peace.